Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating paradox. We're going to look at the work of Dr. Bart Ehrman, who is probably one of the most famous skeptics of the New Testament out there. And we're going to explore this wild argument that his own critical research might just pose one of the biggest challenges to the historical claims of Islam. So let's just start with this question right here. What happens when a scholar who's literally known for taking apart Christian scriptures unintentionally hands you the very tools to dismantle the historical foundations of another world religion? It's a pretty provocative idea, right?
All right, so first things first. To really get what's going on here, we have to set the stage. We need to introduce the key player in all this and understand exactly what claim is being made that kicks this whole conversation off.
Okay, so the man at the center of this is Dr. Bart Ehrman. Now, this isn't just some random critic. He's a highly respected historian, an agnostic, and he has made a name for himself by being incredibly skeptical of the Bible, pointing out all the errors and contradictions he's found in ancient manuscripts. Now, because of that work, you'll often hear his findings quoted in religious debates. Specifically, his work is used to make the case that the Bible we have today is unreliable and that the original message of Jesus has been totally corrupted or lost over time. But this is where things get really, really interesting. To understand this paradox, you have to look closer at what Ehrman is actually arguing. It's not as simple as the Bible is corrupted. And the whole argument really hinges on this one critical distinction. See, Ehrman's life's work is about what are called textual variants. Minor stuff. Scribal typos, spelling mistakes, words being swapped around over centuries of copying. What he does not argue is that the core message, the essential beliefs of Christianity, were fundamentally changed or lost. And look, you don't have to take my word for it. He says it himself in his famous book, Misquoting Jesus. He's crystal clear that all those thousands of little variants he found don't actually change the foundational beliefs of the Christian faith one bit.
So, get ready for the big twist. The argument we're looking at today says that Ehrman's work, which is meant to be a critique, can actually be flipped on its head to strengthen the case for the New Testament's historical reliability. I know, it sounds crazy, but stick with me. This table right here lays out the paradox perfectly. On the left, you've got these common attacks on the Bible. But on the right, you see how Ehrman's own historical findings are used to argue the exact opposite point. It's pretty wild. Let's just walk through the logic here. Think about it. If there was some big conspiracy to change the story, wouldn't the first thing you do be to make all four Gospels match up perfectly, get rid of all the contradictions? The fact that they didn't, the fact that we have four different accounts with all their quirks, is actually what historians look for. It suggests we have multiple independent sources, not one fabricated story. And all of this leads us to the absolute heart of the argument. It all comes down to one single historical event, where Bart Ehrman, the skeptic, is completely 100% certain. Okay, here is the fundamental point of disagreement. It's a foundational belief in Islam right from the Quran, that Jesus did not die on the cross. For Christians, obviously, the crucifixion is the single most important event in their entire faith. Two completely opposing views. So what does Bart Ehrman, the agnostic historian, have to say? Well, he calls the crucifixion of Jesus, and I'm quoting here, one of the most certain facts of history. Not a religious belief, a fact of history. And he really doubles down on this. He's not just saying it's his opinion. He's saying that basically every serious historian on the planet, Christian, atheist, whatever, agrees on this. It's just not something that's debated in academic historical circles. And here he says it directly. From a purely historical standpoint, using the methods that all historians use, Ehrman says the claim that Jesus wasn't crucified is, quote, historically indefensible. So why is he so sure? Well, for a historian, it all comes down to the sources. The Quran was written about 600 years after the event. Meanwhile, historians have tons of earlier sources, both Christian and non-Christian, that are much, much closer to when it all happened. The evidence is just on a different level. So let's tie this all together. How on earth does studying thousands of mistakes in a text lead you to being more certain about what it says? That's the paradox. It sounds counterintuitive, but the logic works like this. We have a mountain of manuscripts for the New Testament. More copies means you're going to get more little copying errors or variants. But, and this is the genius part, all those variants are what allow scholars to compare and contrast and piece together what the original almost certainly said. And that reconstructed text is what confirms these core events, like the crucifixion. More data, even messy data, leads to more certainty. And this final quote just says it all, doesn't it? Ehrman's conclusion has nothing to do with faith. He doesn't have a theological dog in this fight. He accepts the crucifixion as a historical fact for one reason and one reason only. He believes the evidence is just overwhelming. So that leaves us with this final, really challenging thought. When the cold, hard methods of history lead to a conclusion that directly conflicts with a core theological belief, which one do you trust? It's a massive question that sits right at the intersection of history, evidence, and faith itself.